A friend dropped off a rare bird here. You don't see a 6.3 in these. Love these cars. Nothing wrong with the geez, I should know this. M156 is in these, yeah. So I think it's a 08 CLK63 AMG, obviously. It's here for valve cover gaskets, intake manifold, gasket, PCV, spark plugs, fuel injectors, and I'll just do a little quick visual inspection on anything else it may or may not need. I'm not a master Mercedes mechanic by any means, but I did have an ML63 that I actually sold to this guy here that has this CLK, and I did all that maintenance stuff on it. And down here in South Florida, it's hard to find somebody that's trustworthy or a decent human being to fix something. So he brought it to the house. Obviously, I have enough projects here, you know, that I don't need to be doing this, but again, happy to help. Here we are. Just doing a nice little walk around. She's in pretty good shape. 102,000 miles on her. Get this to stop. And valve cover gaskets, I don't know if I mentioned that. I think one of them's leaking, which is common on these. Jeez, nice car, but I'll document it. I took pictures when I did my ML, but again, I'm not a big YouTuber, star, fan, anything. I mean, I use it, I like it, it helps me a lot. So if I do this video and it helps somebody in the future doing it, cool. It's definitely something you can do at home, as long as you have the tools, the space, and the weather's nice. But she sounds good. So it's a good little 6.2. Just doing a quick walk around today. I'm going to start it tomorrow. And we'll go from there. Oh man. Alright, starting on the 6.2 mini maintenance overhaul here. We're going to do plugs, coil packs, oil change. I'm going to pull the intake manifold off to get to the PCV on it, and we're going to do valve cover gaskets. I don't know if I said that already, but we have the bag full of Air Jordans here. Here's the PCV, if anybody would like the part number. It's A156-010-0370. There's PCV. Here are the bolts. These are the required bolts for the intake manifold. They are one-time use from Mercedes-Benz. I don't know what all this is, probably invoices or something. We'll worry about that later. Couple more bolts. Intake manifold bolts, same deal. Valve cover gaskets, L-ring, they've been around for a long time. Part number 234090. They should be identical. 234100. Obviously just different side to side. And then we have our Bosch fuel injectors. There you go. 0280-158-142. All 8 of those. Again, as we all know, on these 156s, they do have problems with them sticking open. You could flood the motor, or hydrolock the motor, I should say, cause a failure. You don't need to lose a $7,000 to $10,000 engine just because you're too cheap to change the injectors, just for the sake of it. The oil drain plug, sorry, I don't know why the phone cut out, but it did. All these seals and bolt is one-time use. I'm probably going to suck the oil out from the top though, to be honest with you, but I might drop it just to do it for them, but it's not necessary on my end. Engine timing cover gasket. No, I'm not doing that. Oil filler cap gasket. Okay, we'll do that. Oh, the timing cover, sorry, never mind, those are for the front. And then here's all 8 injectors. I swore he bought, yeah, it's not the end of the bag here. We bought coil packs as well. Here are all these girls. He may have not bought spark plugs. He may have forgot this. So if so, I will tear into it and start it. But Mercedes-Benz of Miami. What is this crap? I don't know. Alright. Well, we got to get spark plugs. So I'll do that next. But basically, this thing pops off by hand, the engine cover. Snap. Snap. And that's it. She's free as a bird. You can see where it clicks in, and then it snaps in right there on the front as well. Just pay attention that the metal retainer, you know, stuck in there, so that way you're not looking for it later. I'll use the old Celine as a parts bench here. These, very simple. You just pull, release. Same thing, pull. You got like a little locker on them, but it's nothing fancy. Looks like this one is on there good. So let me take a look at that. I'm gonna need 2 hands to remove that one, but from there you're gonna remove the air boxes. So you'll disconnect the mass airflow sensors. There are 2 of them on these girls, like so. You're gonna need a little flathead screwdriver to loosen the air intake tube, so you can remove that. And then from there we'll pop these covers off and get the air deals out. Alright, so once you loosen the 2 flathead screws, you can then just lift up on these air boxes and remove them, like so. Just give it a little jiggle. There she goes, she comes right out. Alright, now, going to do the injectors. Let me zoom out here a little bit. You're going to remove these Torx bolts. You have to pop this cover off. You're going to want to be gentle with all this vacuum hoses and connectors and everything up in the front here. You know, pay attention to how these things disconnect. Don't just yank on the stuff, because if you rip this hose or whatever, you know, it's hard to find, or, you know, not something you can necessarily just jam back together and make it work. Looks like somebody put a coil on this girl already, just on that one cylinder. You're going to need a wrench to disconnect the fuel line. I forgot what size it is, but I will grab that and let you all know. Now's a good time to paint your intake manifold if you wanted to. It's common for these girls to peel and delaminate and all that good stuff. So, again, now's a good time to do it. I'm not going to. But, I will get cracking on this. I need a tripod, but it's just very straightforward. I'm going to remove these Allen bolts right now. You know what? Yeah. Just getting back to this again. So rudely interrupted. Looks like we've had a previous mechanic really working his heart out on this here. Trying to look for a fuel leak, I bet. No real progress. I broke my T30 Torx trying to get the lower valve cover bolt off, so I have to run to the store to get a new Torx bit because I only had that one. But I'm going to just grab that, and then I will take off all these bolts that are inside these little portholes here, and I'm going to lift the intake manifold off as one with the fuel rails. And then I'll get the air intake tube off the back. As you can see, I already disconnected the fuel line. A couple other little doodads. I gotta get these coil packs off. Spark plugs are supposedly already done. I contacted the owner of this car and he said they were done before he bought it, so I'm gonna pull a couple just to confirm that's the case. Again, the car had a slight miss, so I'm just banking it's a bad coil, especially since one of them is already replaced. So we will take a gander and go from there. And that's it. Back at the Benz bright and early. Just checking the plugs because, like I said, previous owner said they were replaced, which they are. They have NGKs. However, this thing was below hand tight. Didn't take any effort to break it loose. It is in good shape though. Everything looks alright. So I'm going to put it back in. I'm going to go and check all the plugs, make sure they're all tight before I button this back up. Again, it's a 14 mil socket I use, and then I use a little magnet. Pull the top of the plug out. Same thing, putting it back in. Don't drop it in the hole, damage the threads, or do something stupid. Sorry for the choppy video, but tightened all those plugs. I removed all the coil packs on this bank. All the intake manifold bolts are removed except for the ones in the back. There's a tab on each side of the manifold. You're just going to pinch them to get the Y pipe off there. You have to pull the vacuum hose off this little port here. I unplugged all 4 of these connectors. They're very simple. Again, be careful with them because everything is brittle and they don't move like they used to. You got to pinch the tabs. These things you pinch as well. It releases the clip. They all just pull out. The other thing you're going to have to do is cut all these zip ties from Mercedes-Benz that hold the fuel injector harness to the rails on both sides, so that way everything can move freely from there. So I'm just going to pull those 2 tabs. Again, I'm sorry I can't show you all this stuff, but I'm trying to show you the places, so it's very straightforward for you to do it yourself. So I'm going to do that, and then there's a PCV deal in the back. I think it has 1 T30 in it, and then you just pinch it and pull it out. So I'll show you that in a few minutes here. Okay, as you can see, there are these 2 little tabs here. Again, just light pressure, pull out, and then she'll just slide right off. Nice. Okay, here's the PCV. There's the 1 bolt back there. It's a T30. You're going to want to loosen it. Again, best to get to it once you remove the intake tube. You will have some random evap hoses, brake booster hoses, things like that. You're going to have to disconnect back here. I cut the harness, or zip ties I should say. They're one-time use, obviously. You could use a regular zip tie. I did buy the correct ones off Amazon. It's just excuse me, a little coffee coming back up there. Ah! All right, sorry. Yep, there you go. And we broke it. But whatever, like I said, they're new on Amazon. I think I got like a 50 pack for a few bucks. It has the push pin clip in it with the zip tie. So it's very straightforward to replace it and make it look like factory again. So just have to cut the other side. I have 1 bolt left and on the manifold, and then I can lift it up and pull it out and show you how to get rid of the PCV and switch that out with a new one, etc., etc. Alright, so I lift the manifold slightly out. You have to unplug all 8 injectors. Very simple. Just push down on this little tab here, excuse my fingernail, and that's it. Pull up. There is a squeeze tab on this. You're going to squeeze both sides, pull the PCV hose out, and then on the other side, this PCV comes out like so. Oh, sorry. You just pull it straight out after you remove the bolt. You're going to have to disconnect 1 hose from whatever side is easiest that you're not going to damage it. And then you'll be able to lift the manifold and pull straight out. Try and pull out as best as you can. That's what she said. So that way you don't drop any debris or anything into the intake ports. Then you have to pull out the shop vac and go to town. Here's my Mustang workbench. And that's it. I have to take the dog for a walk now. And then I'll be back to it. Another quick tip. I like to flip the intake manifolds upside down. You can take a crowbar, whatever. I put a rag here. And then I just smack the top of it with my hand and bang the rails down. And these intakes, again, are aluminum. They're very fragile, so you don't want to break it. So you're just going to go like this and go, and it comes right off. Support the intake manifold and you're good. So that's just my CP tip of the day. That's all fuel. Come get me, EPA. But I think I found his little misfire issue here. This injector is pretty nasty looking. The rest of them are in just okay shape. 1 or 2 of them is also pretty dirty, but this is the cylinder that the coil pack was replaced on. So I'm sure he was chasing an intermittent bad fuel injector. I understand you can't just tell, oh, just by the gunk that's built up. Listen, relax. It's bad. So wise thing to do. Again, this car has, I think, 80 something thousand miles on it, 82 maybe, or 102, I forgot. But you definitely need to change the injectors on the car. If you're unsure about it, spend the $200-300, and literally if you're just doing injectors only, it's not a lot of work. So just change them. It's not worth losing a motor over. So I'm going to get these pulled out. You have to remove these clips. There's like a little tab on each side. I just use a flathead screwdriver, pry each side gently, and then it pushes straight back and off. These hold the injectors onto the rails. So I'm going to change those one by one here. I'm going to take this manifold, throw it on the garbage pail, and then I am going to brake clean that. It's going to be some poor quality footage right here, but look at the gunk. I'm going to scrape out as much as I possibly can. I'll show you what it looks like on the screwdriver here. It's like pavement. It's literally like marshmallow fluff, black fluff. So I'm going to scrape all that out as much as I can get to. I don't know, maybe the guy didn't floor it enough, or like I said, just lack of maintenance. But it's all built up in there pretty good. Another thing to be aware of, look in the holes, see the orange? Those are the O-rings from the bottom of the injectors. You got to make sure you pull those out with a little pick tool or a flathead, because when you go to put the new injectors in, they're not going to seat because those O-rings are in the way. So you remove those. The new injectors come with new O-rings. Just cleaning all this out. Brake clean. Yummy. Sorry, I gotta work on my camera angles here, because sometimes I don't even know what I'm filming. Two cans Sam. Figure you're gonna use 2, 3, 4 cans, something like that. Cleaning this. You could also spray degreaser on it and then spray it with the hose, but I don't have all day for that. I'm trying to get this done. See, all shit. Flip this thing upside down. Man. There's tons of oil residue on this girl. Tons. That dry, I'm going to spray this other side here, tilt it. Give this side a spritzer, and then we'll spray off the old garbage pail. Garbage pail is always a great friend to have. And then I have to get the shop vac out. We'll go scrub a dub in there, get that cleaned up. Yes. Oh, and if anybody cares, I hung some kitchen cabinets, courtesy of my brother-in-law. Got a little Amazon bolt bin action, some Amazon straps. I bought this tire rack. I might move that because I'm not sure I'm in love with it there. But it helps me get organized because I am a slob. So here we go. So I have 5 out of the no, 6 out of 8 injectors, if you can count like I can. Again, very simple. The clip locks in on both sides like so, so you can just pry each with a flathead, and then it'll pull straight out. So just pay attention to the orientation of the injectors, but it's very easy. You just need to center this little tab here, put the locker back on. The plug connector will be on an angle facing out, and that's it. Very straightforward. I use a little bit of engine oil, or in this case Yama Lube. You just dab your finger in the oil. You're going to rub it around the O-rings, insert them into the rail, put the locking clip in, and then you're done. It's a very straightforward process. I would say if you're nervous, just do one at a time, so you remember the orientation of how they went, or how they sit, or how the locking clip works. And again, if you need the part number for these injectors, 0280-158-142. These are Bosch OEM replacements. These came from FCP Euro. Passenger valve cover is off. It's actually in really nice shape. Still has the OG AMG gasket, as you can see. I love AMG prints. They're crap on everything. I think it's fantastic. She looks good in there. It does have the original head bolts, which I don't know if you could see. They're the inverted Torx, which you want the one that looks like a head, you know, whatever, has a protruding head. So I mean, not the end of the world. Cams show some wear, which is expected. I mean, intake cams look a little worse than the exhaust, but nothing I can feel with my fingernail or anything like that. So I'm just gonna say stay on oil changes, and I probably would never touch this, to be honest with you. If somebody buys this thing, you know, with 150, 160 on it or something, I would go after changing it. But gasket was in good shape. I'm going to replace it, obviously. I'm going to replace all the coil pack boot gaskets there in the center. But again, this actually looks pretty good. So very important to stay on oil change intervals. Don't do 5, 10, 15,000 miles just because the bottle says so. Just please change it every 2 to 3K, depending on how hard you beat on the car. Also, I would recommend Liquimoly. Liquimoly's the Ceratec stuff. It all does help for sure on these cars. So I have Liquimoly and a little Hengst filter to go in next, but I will change this valve cover gasket right now and get it back on the car. You can see all the bolt hole locations. The only one that's really difficult to get is that one right there. But you know, tedious by hand. Obviously it'll come right out. You have to remove one of the bolts in front of this cam phaser tensioner here, so that way the harness has some slack to it, so you can pull the harness down above the header. Vacuumed out the center, scraped out as much crap as I could in there. New PCV is installed. I believe that is the cause of his oil leak, because it was pooling up behind the throttle body, and then obviously as you accelerate or whatever, it would dump its guts onto the back side of the trans. I can see all the oil on top of the transmission bell housing. So like I said, it was just pouring out of here, you can see it. I gotta spray more brake cleaner in there, clean that out. But it's just coming out of here, dripping down, sitting in there. As you turn or go, it would go right out, hit the trans. Everything was hot. The exhaust is obviously right there, and that was that. So this thing is pretty much all cleaned up. Injectors around here, rails around here. Obviously I'll install the new PCV into the back side of this with the bolt, and then we'll be good to go. So I'm just going to change these valve cover gaskets quick and slap it back together. Alright, new valve covers on for the passenger side. Valve cover gasket, I should say. Very straightforward. I removed that bolt. You don't need to, because I forgot. That bolt you do need to remove, because that holds the harness on. Just going to give this a quick little bath here. And then I just wanted to spray the trans, because again, this is where all his oil and crap stem from. So a little coyote action in the background. Always hear those things. Yeah, that's it. So now I'm going to install the new ignition coils, which are Delphi jobs. GN 10232-11B1. Hear ye, hear ye. You right in there like so. Reuse the 2 original bolts, plug it in, and you are done. So I will install all 8 of those. I just have to tighten that side of the spark plugs just to make sure those are actually tight, because like I said, these were all barely in there, and this is not something you want to shoot a plug out of. It does take a 14 mil socket, and then I just use a magnet if you do have to pull a plug. I know there is a proper socket out there for it, but I don't have it. Driver's side's off. Same deal as the other side. Loosen all the bolts. The ones in the back are a little tough to get to, especially that one, but that one was already loose and it had a different colored bolt in it, so someone at Mercedes-Benz has already done it. Obviously couldn't get to it right, so just half-assed it. You do have to remove, there's one bolt right there underneath. I wish this thing would focus. Right there where I'm pointing my finger to, that holds the harness. There, you do have to move that so you can remove the harness from the valve cover so you can pull the valve cover off. Same deal though, everything looks okay on this side. Nothing bad. So again, just stay up on oil changes, not that difficult. Here are the old intake manifold bolts. Here are the new ones. You do want to get new ones. They're one-time use. There's the old coils. There's the old PCV. I do have to just change the filter. You are going to need a 32mm socket to remove the oil filter housing so you can get at the filter. Pan, you're going to jack the car up, drain it from underneath. So I will do that, and then we will be on our way to completion here. Removal of the old gasket is very simple. You just pick up and pull. Out she goes. The gasket only goes on one way, so it's not hard to decipher. Again, these were definitely replaced because they're soft still, which if this was an original gasket, it would have came out in a million pieces like it did on my ML63, which I have a video of that on YouTube if you cared to watch it. It might be a little more detailed maybe than what I did here, just because I'm kind of zipping along on this. I want to get it done. I have this, some other crap, this to get to, so I have a lot of things to do. These O-rings are very easy to remove. You can just stab a screwdriver on it and then lift up, and out she comes. Not hard to do. So I'm just going to replace all those, put the gasket back in, slap this side back together, and then I can put the intake manifold on and make all the connections. When you do put this back on, there is one vacuum hose back there. It says AMG on it. You want to make sure you hook that back up. If you don't, you'll have a vac leak. You wonder where the hell it's coming from. I zoomed through this because it's going to pour. So she's back together. Again, lay the intake manifold in there. Make sure there's a foam pad that goes here, and there's another foam pad mid-mounted, probably to help with knock and just sound detonation, or sound whatever you want to call it. Sound deadening. There you go. Everything's all tightened up. Fuel rails, injectors, everything's plugged in. I did not zip tie the injectors on there yet. I'm going to start it, run it. I connected the fuel line. Make sure you tighten that right there. I popped the intake tube back on. I zip tied the harness back to the clip there that goes on the front of the motor. All the injectors, coil pack bolts, plugs are tight. Make sure your plug connector for the IAT sensor is plugged in, which goes underneath that Y tube there. PCV, I don't know if I plugged the PCV back in. That's one we gotta check. Or whatever, not that it has a plug, but there was a plug back here for something. Let me see. No, I got it. Alright, all the new intake manifold bolts are installed and tight. He will need an intake manifold. This had cracked, or was cracked I should say, when I removed that bolt, so that one is loose, or I can't tighten it down because it will break. So eventually he's going to need an intake manifold, which again is a common problem on these cars. I don't know what the deal is, the aluminum design, age, brittle, heat, blah 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 blah, but I'm not going to say they're junk, but they're junk. So you need a new intake manifold. This one's missing the plaque anyway, so whatever. I'm just going to install the intake tubes, plug all these girls back in. You're going to want to do the most bottomest one first. Yep, come on. These, again, somebody's been in here before. They broke all the clips that mount these pieces to the intake manifold. This one's a two-handed job there. That one's in, that one's in. So that's that. Make sure you plug your vacuum line back in up here. Plug in your fuel rail pressure sensor. And I don't know, you're gonna want to crank it over a few times. It's gonna take a few minutes to start just because there's no fuel in the rails or the new injectors. So once those start to spray and get done, you know, it'll fire. It'll blow a cloud of smoke out the back too, because you just replaced all this sensors and crap. So don't be alarmed by that stuff. Obviously you do not want a misfire, hiccups, anything like that. So I'm gonna install the air boxes, plug in the MAF sensors, and I'll do a first start up here. I'm just gonna do a few key cycles just to prime the fuel pump. I'm gonna leave the key on. Check for leaks. None at the main line there. None at these injectors. So everything looks good so far. I'm using my oil vac, so I don't have to go under the car to drain the oil out. You just use the reducer hose, stuff it down the dipstick tube, and off she goes. Alright, just wanted to do that before I put the air boxes on. Alright, she's full of oil. Yeah. Do the old first start here. Let's see if this works. Is it not? Put on the brake. Oh man. A little bit of stuff. Running like a sewing machine. No taps on startup, which is nice. That means there's no phaser, cam phaser issue or rattle or anything like that. Up washer fluid. Check the oil again in 1 second just to make sure all is well. Do that and we'll go for a ride. We're on the mated voyage. I have ESP off, that's why the little light's on. It just gets intrusive sometimes. Drives good. It's got a little vibration in the wheel, and it also needs motor mounts really badly, so I don't even want to do this, but I don't know if you can hear it. It's got like a mean thud, and it was tough because it downshifted on its own. I didn't want it to do that. So motor mounts and tranny mounts are definitely in this girl's future. It has like a little vibration in the front end, which again, I think I just said this, but it's tough to tell on convertibles. But usually, or I'm gonna say, I believe this girl needs, let's see. Oof, God, that hurts me inside. But it runs good otherwise. But yeah, it needs motor mounts, needs a tranny mount. and at least the driver's side is definitely smoked. The motor's jumping up. But aside from that, runs well. And also, I'm sorry, I was getting to the vibration. If I take the load off and put the load back on it, take the load off it, and the load back on it, I can hear the wheel bearings. So it needs left and right front hubs or wheel bearings, whatever you'd like to call them. I'm not sure if these are like the W210s, where it's like an old school bearing where you actually pack it with grease and, you know, put the nut on it and blah, blah, blah. Hopefully these are updated and you can just buy the hub. It already has the bearing in it, and it's ready to go. You can get on with your day. Be a quick swap, but I don't see any smoke. I don't smell anything. Engine runs very well. Like I said, the motor's quiet. The shift's good. The air works, which is nice. I mean, overall, these are just badass cars for the money. I am a huge M113 fan, but you have to drive an M156 and just be like, yep, I understand why Mercedes did this. Again, not as reliable as the 113. They can be, but this is a hell of a motor, and these things sound nasty. But, alright, that concludes this. I'll just do one final walk around once I get home. I'll call Max and see if he wants to do motor mounts and a tranny mount. I really don't have the time to do it, but I'll see what he says, or I'll at least tell him, because it's a big job. Forgot, of course it's hot, because I just drove it, but these are the clips from Amazon. You just obviously go through the harness here, wrap it around, and tighten her down like so. I will lop the end off, but it'll look just like factory. Dry as a bone. I'm just gonna throw it a rev just to see if the motor can move, or you could see it move. But definitely under load. My God, feels like the motor's coming through the firewall. But she's done. I mean, again, badass car. 6'3" gang. That's it. Just have to put the little AMG engine cover on here. We'll be good to roll. Next on the chopping block is the old M4. She needs a motor. Subscribe, follow my YouTube channel. I don't really care. If you guys want to watch the videos, I appreciate it, obviously, but nothing I'm going to get rich off of. I'm not that good. Snap her on there. Oh yeah, baby. Come on. Yeah, see, the airbox moved. Yeah. Alright. There she is.